Good morning everyone. My name is Parijat Sardesai. At Globant, I play multiple roles. I am the technical director for the UI engineering studio as well as a practice lead for one of the practices called Web Solutions. I also lead a team which is working on the digital transformation for one of the biggest banking client which Globant has. Okay. So what are we going to talk about today? Let me start with a story. I am starting with a true story. Not so long ago, one of our biggest banking clients approached us with a challenge. The challenge was to become 100% digital. However, that challenge or that goal did not stop them from having a traditional mindset. The traditional mindset of a banking industry, not to adopt the latest trends in technology. They had an old monolithic architecture which was like a big ball of mud. We at Globant, like Ritesh spoke, are known for advocating latest trends in technology. But the traditional mindset was again a problem here. As all customers, we had a short time to do this. Right? So the challenges were becoming 100% digital, advocating the latest technologies to the customer, and obviously the short time to do it. They wanted us to build a solution which could cater to the needs of all form factors. Web, mobile, desktop, everything. To do all of this, the first thing which we had to do was to change the mindset of the customer, because we wanted to suggest them the latest trends in technology. How do we do that? First of all, change this mentality of the customer to become a startup sort of a mentality. Then we tried to build a middle level layer between their core banking solution and the front end. The layer later on became resilient, obviously it scaled and it became smart. I just spoke about the monolithic architecture which the customer had, and I said that we suggested them a solution which was a services or a microservices layer in between. So the first question which arises is, what is the difference between monoliths and microservices? So if you see there, can I have that pointer please? Thank you. Doesn't work. Okay. So if you see there, the monolithic architecture is basically a services layer which talks to the database and provides the data to the front end. Whereas if we talk about micro front ends, they are basically granular in nature. So each function is divided into its own service. It has its own database and they can be combined to achieve a greater good. All of these services are provided to the customer as one service. Okay. So what are the advantages which microservices provide? First one, the scalability. The second one, because they could be scaled, since they are performing just one function, you could write down a new service to write down a different function. So they are scalable. The agility of development, we could do it very fast. They are independently deployable. So their independent nature becomes one of our advantages. And the last one, obviously since they are performing just one function, they are very easy to understand. I spoke about microservices being granular. How does it help? Since they are granular, they become more pluggable. So you could customize your requirements or whatever the customer wants with the help of those pluggable services, right? The flexibility which they provide, since they are independently deployable, they give us a flexibility to choose the right tool to develop them. We at Globant are a global company. So we have geographically distributed teams. So that gives us a flexibility for every team to select the technology in which they want to do it. And obviously the speed of development is again the best factor here. I have been talking about monoliths, microservices. Think about if we could move this microservices architecture to the front end. and that is what we are going to talk about, right? Micro front-end applications. Before we go to that, I just have one question. Can somebody answer what is the difference between a website and a web app? Anybody? No one?
No differences.
Yes?
So websites are designed mostly for the browsers, I mean desktop browsers.
Okay.
They are not for serving offline, but web apps are mostly developed for mobile apps. And the agenda is that even if there is no internet or something, they can at least see the skeleton, is the UI part of it.
You are talking about progressive web apps, right?
Progressive web apps. So that is more like an app which we generally have as
Okay.
a web. But it's since we don't have the internet, it's not able to connect to the.
That is one of the features of a web app moving to a progressive web app. I get that, yes. Anybody else was saying something? Yes.
I think a website has a basic functionality. The website is like the internet that was envisioned, just information browsing. App lets you do more like sound, notification, more interaction.
Fairly correct, yes. Anybody else? Okay. The major difference between a website and a web app is the intention, the goal, the objective which they are built. Okay. A website is more content centric. So it is a collection of documents, whereas a web app is more behavior centric. All of those things which you said are behaviors for a web app. Think about a website. If I remove the content from the website, it wouldn't mean anything. But think about a banking app. If you change the content, it would still, the behavior still holds good. That is the major difference between a website and a web app. Okay. I know this distinction would not hold good always, but we should keep in mind. And why are we discussing about it? Because you know that whenever we go to a customer or whenever we are talking about applications, today we only talk about web apps. We don't talk about websites. Like it is looked down upon to call something a website, right? But it is not. If you are writing a simple content centric site, it makes more sense to call it a website. Okay. Now coming back to when we were talking about monolithic and microservices. What I said for the microservices was that when you combine several services, you could build a microservices architecture, right? Similar to that, if you combine several apps, what do you get? Micro front-end applications. And that is what we are going to talk about, okay? To explain it in a very simple terms, I found this somewhere which explains it very easily. So, to explain it in a simple sentence, a micro front-end application is a container on which several apps or sub-apps could reside and communicate to each other in perfect harmony. This is a simple definition of a micro front-end application. Each app, since they are separate apps, each app has its own individual entity. Okay. They have their own distributed data management system. So basically state management system. Each app has its own state management system. They are independently deployable, like I talked about the microservices. They are independently deployable. Since they are independently deployable, so the technology choice doesn't matter. On the same app, you could have several frameworks resided on the same app. Have anybody worked with an architecture which has like same, on the same app you have multiple frameworks working? Great. So you know what I am talking about, right? And since I am talking about independent deployments, independent code bases, independent technologies, obviously the code bases are also independent, right? Since we are talking about independent sub-apps, the first thing which comes to our mind is that how should we divide that? So there are two major types of divisions we could do. One of them is a page-wise split where the container of the site, so you could split them route-wise. So the home page can be one app, the maybe event section can be a separate app, if it is a different route. The other way to distinguish it is or divide it is in components. Okay. What is the difference? See, if you have geographically distributed teams, this one makes more sense. Okay, because the dependency management becomes easier. The coordination is easy to do. However, if you have a geographically co-located team, the horizontal distribution also makes perfect sense. You could do it with proper name spacing, with common styles, it works just fine. Okay. I have been just talking about micro front ends, and so can we see a showcase of what a micro front end is? For obvious reasons, I can't show you what I did for my banking customer. So can we see something which is already working as a micro front end? Let me tell you, all of you have already seen it. Didn't you register for the event? Our site is a micro front end. So the UI Orbit site on which you registered is a micro front end site. How is it a micro front end site? The form which you filled, which somehow gave something went wrong to some people, is an Angular form. The map which is there is developed in Vue. These components, the other components, are developed in React, and all of them are residing on a React container. And I would just show you that. Okay. So let's look at it. I'm just not going to talk about it. So if we see this, this is the local version of the site running on my machine. Let's go to first. Let's just go to uiorbit.globin.com. This is how the site is loading right now. This is yet not a true micro front end. Why? Because we are just calling one API for all the components there. However, I could just make a change in a flag here, which I have already loaded, and I go to a local version of this site running, and I do a refresh here, and now you can see if I check the hero section, it is just one app which is calling the hero. The hero section is the top of the website. If I want to see the schedule, oh, okay, the browser's theme, I'll have to change the complete system theme. Just give me a second. Oh, sorry. Thank you. I don't know if after this, yeah, better. It's still dark. Better if you could switch off the lights. I could enlarge this also if required. Yeah? Can you see it better now? I can increase the font size as well. Yeah. Is it better? Yeah, it looks better. So the hero section is fetching its own data. Okay. If I go to the event schedule, I can call the event schedule fetching its own data. Right? So everything is fetching its own data. Why did not we deploy this and deployed just one single application or API call? Obviously, we did not want the event site to like make so many HTTP calls for everybody who is visiting the site, right? So that's why we deployed this version of the site. I said that the apps are all independently working and independently deployable. This is the hero section, which is independent of the site. This is not the site, it only has the hero section. This is the Angular form, independently running. Okay? This is the event outcome section. I just refreshed it. And this is the schedule, which we are running behind a little bit. Okay? These are the several components which I showed you. Okay? Let me go back to the presentation. Okay, so I proved that these are independent components, okay, and they are independently deployed. Let's look at the architecture of the site, which we have done for now. I said the first thing is that they should reside in perfect harmony, so that they should match each other, right? We are just delivering one website, right? So that is the reason we have common styles here. All the components are published as web components. Okay, there is a React frame in between, which is basically our container. So all the components are included into our container. There is a Node API server running here, okay, which is our Node.js server, which gets data either from the data management system, or which is a MongoDB, or from the CMS, which is a Strapi CMS. Okay. The Strapi CMS exposes data with the help of JSON APIs. Okay. Why do we need the node layer in between if there are JSON APIs? Obviously, we used the free version. We wanted some customizations for our app, and those were not possible, so we wrote down a Node.js layer in between, which could do the customizations for us. Okay. A little complex. What I said was that each app has its own individual entity. So they have their own dependency management systems, right? We have React, Angular running there. So they have their own dependency management systems. So we have, for the dependency management systems, what we have done is every app installs its own dependencies, creates its own build, and publishes that build to a repository called Nexus. Nexus, what is Nexus? Huh? Exactly. So Nexus is basically where it is just like NPM. It is just that it is a private repository where you could publish your artifacts. And those artifacts we will use for our own app while installing as dependencies to the React frame which was in between. Okay. So the node modules become the dependency for each app, and the build for each app becomes a dependency for the container, where it is published as a web component. Okay. The versioning of this is taken care by a tool called Lerna. What is Lerna? Yes.
Used for managing monorepos in JavaScript.
Correct. So managing the versions of the monorepos. So you could do it manually, there is no problem. The only problem is the hassle which will come behind it. Okay. So to just make it easy to manage, we have used Lerna, which does an auto versioning of those. So when you used to install node packages, you have versions there, right? So similar to that, these app components also have a version. Okay. And that version is done by Lerna. I spoke about like NPM, Angular, React, everything, blah blah blah, what and what not. How many of you are Angular developers here? Great. How many of you are React developers here? EXT, Vue. Okay. And how many of you are web developers here? Come on. People who are Angular are web developers. Right? Okay. You don't believe me? Really, you are. Please take pride in that. What is the common factor between all web developers? Thank you. This is like one of my, one movie which I liked. I liked this dialogue.
But I'm a captain of a state team.
And I'm the coach of the Indian national women's team. मुझे स्टेट्स के नाम ना सुनाई देते ना दिखाई देते, सिर्फ एक मुल्क का नाम सुनाई देता है, इंडिया.
So I hear only one language. What is that? Thank you, web developers. So all of this is made in JavaScript. The frameworks are all JavaScript, Angular, Vue, React. The backend is Node.js, which is again JavaScript. The CMS is Strapi, which is a JavaScript based CMS, which exposes API as JSON APIs. So all of it is JavaScript, at least most of it, until and unless I find a database which can be written in JavaScript. I'll try to do that. Ritesh just spoke about accessibility. See, we truly believe that the web is for everyone, and we are really bound to do something about it. Accessibility is a DNA which runs in every Glober. We take full pride in, and it is genetically embedded into all Globers. Okay, our site is 94% accessible. You could run the Lighthouse report, and this is an actual Lighthouse report which is there. The only red mark which you are seeing here is because of the view map, because it is a Google map and we cannot provide an alternate text to a Google map. So that was the only reason which it is not 100%. Okay. How is it accessible? The fonts are AA compliant, the contrast ratios. Okay. The site has a chronological order, so if you remove CSS, it would still mean something and it will render in a logical order. The complete website is keyboard traversable. Go home and try it. The Angular form, the form in between is again keyboard traversable. The contrast ratios, the error messages which we show are all accessibility compliant. So that is why we take pride in saying that we are a company who is working towards making the web for everyone. Let us go to a next level of accessibility. How about something which could happen like this?
First name Amit. Last name Dubey. Check email. Select no. Register.
It worked. This is not just a video. Let me just try it out on our website. I am sure it will not work, but let me try. With all this ambient noise, it is a little difficult, but let me try. Full name Parijat Sardesai. Email parijatsardesai123@hotmail.com. Phone 880-683-2211. Organization Globant. LinkedIn www.linkedin.com. Reserve my spot. It worked. One more level of accessibility where we can take it. This is still nascent. I cannot show you here because every time I have to do this, I have to stay put and I can't stay here for the entire night. So I just recorded a video. It was recorded yesterday night. Let me show you one more level of accessibility which we could do.
Suppose I'm reading something.
Oops, sorry. Can we increase the volume, please? Okay, sorry. Just a second. Wait.
Suppose I'm reading something.
Okay, I'll say it. Suppose I am reading something and I don't want to use my hands. See, my pupil detection is happening here. The camera is reading my pupils and it is scrolling down. And it is not a set timeout, okay? I started seeing up. It went up. I again will start seeing down and it will scroll down. Works like a charm. So, are we crazy to do all of this? Yes. Are we over engineering something? Yes. Yes. I know that somebody would believe that we are over engineering this. Why we over engineered this? Maybe we over engineered this. Why? Because we are a services organization. When we go to customers, suppose you go to a customer, you take a PPT with you and you're like, we do accessibility, we do micro front end, blah, 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 blah. We wanted to create a showcase for the customer to tell them we could do it. Now we can show them what we have done. What are the paths ahead? We are planning to make this site as a central hub for any UI engineering studio event happening across Globant. We are also planning to make this site internationalized with the help of the CMS which is there. The plan is to have this site as a central repository of announcing any UI engineering event which happens in Globant. So maybe we are crazy over engineering this, but it helps when we could show something to our customer. I know that there are several questions which you would be having right now. I could answer some of them, but please visit our booth where my team who has made this possible, this is not me, this is my team. So please visit our booths and we will show you hands-on what we have done. Thank you, that is all for the day. I can take some questions, yes. Yes. Okay. 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 Yes, you can. So, yes. So we have this. So I told you right in the beginning. What we did was the core banking solution is still with the bank. So our customers also have their own solutions. What we did was to build a layer in between that, which could segregate the banking solutions with like distributing that banking solution into several microservices. And always it is not required that you have to have a microservices architecture to support a micro front end. Okay, they are two different things. Am I making sense? Yes. You had some question.
So, my question is, merging multiple frameworks and libraries in one page by company. Don't you think that it will create huge burdens for just one page, and it is a kind of a heavy loading for the page, and it's going to slow down the application?
Yeah. So, if you could do the conditional bundling of components for Angular, for Vue, and for React, that wouldn't be a problem. See, the build size increases when you install too many routes having all of it which is required, right? My Angular form doesn't require the complete Angular repository, right? So Angular is smart enough to just provide me to whatever I need for that page, right? So the dependency size only increases when you start using multiple things there, and then using those frameworks is also making sense. Because see, the site which I showed you is having a single page. I am calling it a site and not an app, whereas I made it as an app, right? So for a big app, think about a big application which you are building for your customer or as a product. For it would make more sense if you had the flexibility to select Vue as some part of the application. So the form, it makes more sense. People say that if your application has more forms, use Angular. And if your application has more graphs, use React. How about you use both of them? Makes more sense, right? Any other questions? Yeah.
Are there any, so we have discussed about all the pros of using micro frontends, right?
Yes.
Are there any cons as per your experience?
Over engineering? Was a con? Yes, there are cons. The dependency management systems, you will have to take care of them. The common styles is something which you will need to take care of they are very fragile, okay? You have to understand that you are working with many frameworks here. we have to also understand that we should not use native, or we should not create custom APIs and use browser own native APIs. Okay, that is not a mandate, but it is a good guideline to a micro front end application. Okay, so all of this is, yes, really important. You could talk to my team who has worked on this and they can explain you the challenges they faced. But there is a advantage to this. When I was showing you this, I don't know why I am going back, but see, the view map is not working because it's a local host and the map has a key registered to uiorbit.globant.com with Google. Okay, but the entire application is working seamlessly. That is the advantage. Any other questions? I can take one more. Yes.
Every micro frontend has its own CSS classes, right?
Yes.
So how we are going to resolve the conflicts between across the apps?
Namespacing.
CSS class conflict.
Namespacing. You could do namespacing for your apps, right? For common styles, like we used, the common styles could be at one place, and the namespacing of several apps can help you do these dependencies, right?
So you mean I need to prefix every class with app name?
Yes. Okay. Simple as you do for different packages also in your application, right?
Currently we are facing same problem in my organization. So I have converted monolithic application into micro frontend, but we are facing a problem while having issue with class conflicts. CSS
Yes.
class conflicts.
So you need to do the namespacing very carefully. Also follow a standard which is like, if you follow a standard like BEM.
But like this is a very big application, and we don't actually, this is a big application, and currently we are not in a position to change entire classes.
Yeah, I don't work at Globant at this application. I also have a big application. So this is just one part of my POC. But yes, it is manageable. You were saying something.
You can actually install plugins through build tools like Webpack, where you package, they automatically assign the prefix for CSS classes. So you don't have to worry about doing that.
While packaging your application.
Okay. Any solution for backbone applications? So because backbone application is not supported for.
Yes, there is a solution. You should upgrade.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'll take any questions on the booths. I can't eat the entire day, so thank you so much.